Right, now we're going to talk about matters of life and death, and I've learned I need to speak up a little, so I will. First thing I want you to do is think about what's the law about abortion in this country. If you can bear to, say it out loud. You can talk over me, have fun. So, the law in this country is 2 different doctors. The last date for an abortion is 24 weeks. You can have one after that if you're going to die, if the pregnant woman's going to die, but it wouldn't really be seen as abortion. It would be seen as saving her life. And there must be either harm to the existing children, harm to the mother, or the fetus must be severely disabled. The later the abortion, the more severe the disability has to be to allow the abortion to happen. The next thing is, what does Catholic Church say about abortions? And I think you know this. The Catholic Church says, of course, that life begins at conception. The purpose of sex is for procreation. So if you're having sex, really, you should want a child. The minute the sperm hits the egg, then it is alive. That is alive. It's a potential human life, and you cannot destroy it because life belongs to God. Only God can give and take life. My favourite quote about abortion from the Catholic Church is made by the Pope, and the Pope said, "Abortion and infanticide are the most abominable crimes. Infanticide means the murder of a baby, so they think abortion is baby murder. So they absolutely believe abortion is wrong, and you, of course, can refer to the 10 Commandments, you shall not kill." Secondly, what does the Church of England say about abortion? Again, you can probably guess this, but I'm sure you can remember it. They say, abortion is very, very sad, but it can happen according to the law in extreme cases. They say that the life of the fetus is not absolutely sacred when compared to the life of the mother. So the mother's life is more important. So, if there were severe illness, if there were a rape, then maybe they would allow an abortion. Jesus taught that we should love one another, and really this is a golden rule moment. The Church of England would absolutely apply the golden rule to this situation and say, in your shoes, what would you want to happen? The next thing is euthanasia. And try and remember, please, what euthanasia is. And it is a good or easy death. Some deaths are better than other deaths. There are 4 types of euthanasia. So the first one is involuntary. So this is when you can't ask. For example, if you're in a coma, or if you're a child, or if you're mentally ill. The second time is voluntary. So this is when you say to someone, please would you kill me? And this person can't move. Maybe they are paralysed, maybe they're in a hospital and they can't get anything to help them die. Active is when you give someone something and that kills them, such as you might give them a drug, you might give them a morphine overdose. That would be active euthanasia. And inactive is when you don't give them something, and as a result of that, the person dies. You can also have assisted suicide. Assisted suicide is where somebody maybe needs help to kill themselves, but they kill themselves. So if you got somebody some drugs and you handed them the drugs and then you left the room, that's assisted suicide, because without you helping them, they couldn't have done it. The Catholic teaching on euthanasia is that euthanasia is wrong, absolutely. Only God can take life, same teachings as abortion, but they have the law of double effect. The law of double effect is if you do an action and your primary motive is to help someone, but there's a side effect, there's a horrible side effect, that you can still do the action. So, for example, in the case of a painful death, a Catholic doctor could give morphine, and you know that to get rid of the pain, you need to keep giving more morphine. And at some point, the amount of morphine needed to destroy the pain can kill the patient. Catholics would allow this, because you're not trying to kill the patient, you're trying to stop the pain. So they don't really allow euthanasia, but they allow the law of double effect, so sometimes it happens. The Church of England says, and it's the only thing they really say no, no, no about, they say no, no, no about euthanasia. It is wrong. Only God can take life. It is murder. And what they think is that if we start down the path of euthanasia, then really the people that will be euthanized are the people who are the weaker, poorer members of society. And they think it will end up almost being like that we won't bother treating people who are very poor. We won't bother treating people who are old, and it will be the reduction of the respect for human life. Next thing is to think about, why do Christians believe in life after death? Why? And the first reason is because it says in the Bible, he came back from the dead. And it's not, unclear about this, and it's not a sort of a vague retelling. They say, no, absolutely, he came back from the dead. People saw him. People saw him, they spent time with him, 40 days and 40 nights. The whole teaching of Christianity depends on Jesus coming back from the dead. Because what it says is that if Jesus can come back from the dead, then so can everyone else. And Christians believe that when they die, Jesus is waiting for them in heaven. And he said it. He said it on the cross. He said, today I shall see you this very day in paradise. He said, in my Father's house there are many rooms, meaning in heaven there's a lot of space. They also believe, because the Church of England says it. Oh, here's that fantastic picture of St. Thomas, do you remember? And he says, I won't believe that Jesus is alive unless I can see him and touch him and stick my fingers in his wound. And then, of course, Jesus pops up and goes, hello. And there's St. Thomas sticking his fingers in Jesus' wound. Possibly the most disgusting picture in the world. And other reasons were that the church teaches that it happens. So if you go to any sort of church list of rules of what we believe, it's called a creed, list of what they believe, they say, I believe that Christ has risen from the dead, and as he has risen, so shall we rise. Not to believe it would be to say that Jesus was a liar. And any vicar that you ask, any priest that you ask, will always say that there is life after death. So for all these reasons, Christians believe in life after death. You need to know what the different Christians believe. So Catholics, remember, you can go and speak to your priest, you confess your sins, and then you go outside and you get hit by a bus. Then you can go straight to heaven. But if you've sinned and you haven't confessed, you will need to go to purgatory until the end of time, which is kind of hell for a while, and then you can go to heaven. They believe that there'll be a heaven on earth, that everybody will be resurrected. Resurrection, means that your body comes back. So if I am resurrected, I will still be 5'4" and ginger. Reincarnation, just as an aside, Christians do not believe in reincarnation. Reincarnation is if you're reborn in a different body. So if I were reincarnated, I might be, I don't know, a man living in Mongolia. That's reincarnation, but Christians don't believe in that. Right, back to this. Evangelicals, they believe that you have to be a good Christian to go to heaven. Everyone else goes to hell. So it doesn't matter what religion you are. If you're not a Christian, you go to hell. It doesn't matter what you've done. The Church of England, of course, is split on this. Some people agree with the evangelicals, and they say you've got to be a Christian. And if you're a Christian, you can go to heaven. Other people say in the Church of England that you have to be a good person, because Jesus taught about being kind to each other. He said, let us love each other. And if you follow his teachings, they say, you're a kind of Christian of the heart, therefore you can go to heaven. Church of England believe that you go straight to heaven when you die. Evangelicals believe that you wait until the end of time. Finally, we're going to look at poverty. There are 5 causes of poverty. Natural disasters. There are more natural disasters in poor countries, such as droughts and earthquakes. And these countries don't have the resources to be able to sort of pick themselves back up. So lots of people die, there's a spread of disease, and they lose things like their farms, their ability to grow food. They lose their factories, so they can't make stuff, so they can't make money. So it makes them very, very poor, and they can never get back on their feet. The second cause of poverty is war. War is very, very expensive. The war that we're having at the moment in Afghanistan and Iraq has cost us so far, cost the world $2.4 trillion. It's ridiculously expensive. So countries spend a lot of money on war. Therefore, they're not spending it on food, they're not spending it on healthcare, they're not spending it on education. Also, war destroys the infrastructure, which is things like the homes, hospitals, factories, roads. So a country can't run and it can't make money. When war destroys farms, people can't grow food, so they become very hungry. They can't feed their country. But also people get attacked and they're frightened, so they leave their homes and they go to refugee camps. So they can't earn any money and they need feeding. And you can destroy a poor country and make it very, very poor very quickly with war. The next thing is debt, which I don't think I've spelled properly on this PowerPoint. Debt is the third world debt to the richer world. So you remember, $100 million are paid back by the poorest countries to the richest countries every single day in this country, every single day. So a country borrows some money from a rich country, pays it back, but then they keep on having to pay more and more and more because of the interest. So they can end up paying 10, 15, 20 times the amount of the loan just because of the interest. And it's that interest really that's crippling people. The next one is corrupt leaders. In Zimbabwe, there's Robert Mugabe. He won't let people vote. And he takes the tax of the money, tax of the country, and he spends it all on himself. He's got these beautiful palaces. And because he is so well off, he doesn't share any money with his poorer people. So people are literally starving to death in Zimbabwe, having a terrible time. The final cause of poverty is lack of healthcare and education. So disease spreads, people can't save themselves, they can't be saved, they can't work. And lack of education means that disease spreads again because you don't understand about bacteria and things, but also you can never get a decent job. You can't get a job other than just picking up litter and stuff. You need to know about Christian Aid. Why did Christian Aid does what it does? It does what it does because Jesus taught we should help the poor. He taught about loving your neighbor. He died to save everyone. And he was very clear that we should share the earth's resources with other people. So Christians believe they have a moral duty to help other people. And do you remember the story about your brother? If your brother is starving and then you go for tea with your mum will get really angry with you and say, why did you leave him on the street? You can't tell me you love me and leave my son starving. And Christians believe that if we don't help our brothers in need, we can't call ourselves Christians. That's what they say. So one of the projects that they have is the Tea Project. And this is in India. And they pay workers a reasonable wage. Normally tea pickers get paid very little indeed. But Christian Aid pays them to pick the tea and they pay them a reasonable amount. They don't make them work for crazy hours. I think it's something like 8 hours a day, which is the same amount of time I work. They have a school that their children can go to, so their children can do other jobs when they grow up. They have a shop that they can use with nutritious and cheap food. So they still buy the food, but they don't go down with as many diseases, so they can keep on working. And they also have health care, which again means that when they get sick, they can be cured, they can work. So it's not about just handing stuff out. Christian Aid doesn't believe in that. They do emergency aid, but most of the projects they do are long-term, which means that countries can look after themselves.